Guys, maybe we should reverse engineer our readings. If we figure out what's gonna happen, we could stop it.
Wow, that's actually not the worst idea.
I mean, 2 seconds ago, they didn't understand what the actual problem was, but these students are so intelligent, they're able to reverse engineer something they don't even understand. That's smart. Happening, folks. So far, and we're about halfway into it, 2024 has been all over the place in terms of movie quality. Now, don't get me wrong, I have been impressed by a few. And I am cautiously optimistic about a few upcoming releases. Especially this one. But for some very different reasons. But unfortunately, for the most part, folks, 2024 has been a real stinker. And today, things are gonna get worse. And it's all this smug-looking f***er's fault. That is Spencer Cohen, folks. He wrote and directed today's movie. We are going to shift pace a bit today, folks. Instead of breaking this movie down into 3 acts, I'm going to take you through this travesty scene by scene. And as we're going along, I'm going to give you my honest criticisms, all based on my years of film fannery and sense of integrity. So it's essentially going to be the opposite of a Chris Stuckman video. F*** you again, Chris, you hollow millionaire. I never get tired of saying that. Now, Tarot identifies as a 2024 supernatural horror film. A good friend of the channel asked me to do my thing with this movie, so thank you, Gord. I'm only joking. Thanks, Gord. Tarot is written and directed by Spencer Cohen, whom I have already acquainted you with. Spencer's also responsible for writing Moonfall and Extinction. Tarot stars Harriet Slater, Avantika Vandanapu, Larson Thompson, Wimberly Gonzalez, Wolfgang Novogratz, Adane Bradley, Olwyn Foire, and Jacob Batalon, who was famously Spider-Man's personal assistant. That's a big cast, and I will not remember all the names. I didn't say I cannot. So, as usual, I will probably just nickname everybody. Let's go. The Tarot opens with a mathematically balanced collection of mostly super attractive, perfectly diverse individuals who've just rented a mansion in the Catskills to celebrate Elisa's birthday. And this is Elise. And for the 17% of my subscribers who are not American, the Catskills are a wildly expensive scenic mountain range vacation getaway spot in New York. Now you might notice most of the group of diverse, super good-looking students who can afford to rent a mansion in the Catskills look as though they should have been done with school around 2015. So we're just going to assume they're all studying to be doctors. And it is taking them all much longer than most people. Now amongst this giant cast, there's a couple. They are Grant and his girlfriend, who I've just realized looks old enough to be one of my mom's friends from school. Anyway, they broke up right before the weekend started. And if your potential connection to these characters hasn't been demolished already, they also want us to believe they've drank all the alcohol they brought, even though none of them are even slightly tipsy. Grant and my mom's friend have as much romantic chemistry as I would probably have with one of my mom's friends. But what's even worse, each of these actors fits so perfectly into the stereotype they were hired to represent, you can't even buy their friendship with each other. And as for this movie's big-name star, Spider-Man's personal assistant, what's wrong with him? Compared to the Spidey movies, he looks like an obese anorexic who's currently undergoing some kind of venous treatment. I'm gonna have to bleep that one out, even I. They decide they have to explore Bruce Wayne Manor in hopes of finding more alcohol, even though none of them are drunk. And there's a basement, but it's locked, and there's a sign saying keep out. So they rip off the lock and kick the door open because, well, most of you won't understand this, but that's actually Catskills etiquette, and you have to be cultured to understand these sorts of things. And it turns out the basement of Wayne Manor is actually a storage facility for all of the things Ed and Lorraine Warren couldn't keep in their own basements. The shelves are filled with things you and I would probably just call spooky knickknacks. But of course, my mom's friend knows the name and in-depth histories of every single item because she is an expert, and probably also because people naturally accumulate a lot of random knowledge by the time they hit their 70s and 80s. And as they're hoking around, Spider-Man's personal assistant suggests they all play strip poker. I can't believe nobody took him up on his offer. He's seriously rocking that orange and brown Fred Flintstone collapsible tent look. The pretty Indian girl's character is so thinly written, she's been making the same angry bitch face every single time she's been on camera. What's her name again? Her name's Paige. Now this might surprise you, but they find a deck of tarot cards amongst Ed and Lorraine's property. And when they find the cards, Madeline, the Latina with the least Latina name on earth, although she does hang out in the Catskills, in mansions, at the weekend. So maybe I should stop stereotyping myself, right? Anyways, Spencer Cohen, the writer and director, has her do that thing Latinas do in these kinds of movies. Which one of you can guess the overdone stereotype I'm talking about? And if you answered, reference some ridiculously specific advice her grandmother gave her about whatever supernatural thing they're about to encounter, congratulations. It's like they just expect us to buy the fact her grandmother warned her about the potential dangers of this exact situation.
You listen to me, Nieta. If you ever find yourself away overnight celebrating a gringa birthday and you happen to be in a big mansion and you find yourself in the cellar of that big mansion and you happen to find a deck of tarot cards, but they are not the normal tarot cards, but really old and spooky, weird tarot cards, you mark my words, Nieta, you better stay away from them.
Now, we can kind of blame Rage Page for the rest of the movie. I mean, I'm mostly still blaming this guy. Rage Page asks, without smiling, of course.
So how does it work?
And that results in my mom's friend explaining literally everything about tarot cards, and she does it with the acting chops of Drew Barrymore doing Shakespeare.
To be or not to be?
From the time my mom's friend starts explaining tarot cards to the time they sit down and do the actual readings, my mom's friend protests doing it 4 times. And then again, right before they start, she says,
"Guys, we really shouldn't be doing this."
To which the birthday girl replies,
"Who cares?"
And then they just do it anyway. A writer who understands movies, or common sense, would just know. My mom's friend can't be an expert. For this little dynamic to play out, she needs to be unsure, or even better, completely unaware of the potential dangers of using somebody else's tarot cards. Because then you can write the discovery of that information in later on, and they all could have collectively gone, but the expert and everyone else ignored the obvious warnings, and that is the worst thing that can happen at the start of a movie. Until something even worse does. Elise runs every character through a full tarot card reading. Not an abbreviated version, not a condensed version, not as dialogue between the characters after the fact. And every single reading contains the specific information about how each of them are going to die later in the story. If I summarize every character's reading right now, it would make me a hypocrite. Besides, this way you'll have things to look forward to. So they put the box back, and it goes all fiery red, Adobe After Effects, and then a witch somewhere performs a ritual we're assuming to set things in motion for the rest of the story. Now, when they drive back to school, they are driving $100,000 SUVs. This is to make them relatable to audience members like you and me. They go out of their way to make sure we know Spider-Man's personal assistant is obsessed with scary podcasts at the start of this movie. And then later on, they never mention it again. Every time Zoolander hears on camera, he poses his face. And I'll point them all out for you with this little arrow so you don't have to pay attention. Hit the like button. And in the very next scene, Zoolander wins $700 on a scratch card. And that calls for a very special face pose indeed. Now, I admit, I have been pretty hard on writer-director Spencer Cohen so far, but I have to give him credit for knowing how to compensate for some of his shortcomings when it comes to writing and directing. Now, when Zoolander wins the $700, somebody says, "Great job." Now, without skipping a beat, Zoolander replies,
"I don't know if there's any skill to it."
Now, instead of having to waste time writing an actual funny response for Zoolander to say, he just writes it in that everybody finds his response hilarious.
I don't know, like if
Now, after they all get home, I'm embarrassed to admit I missed one of the modern horror story checklist items, and it's a pretty big one. Jonny recaps, mostly. Elise, the birthday girl who's all alone in her sorority house now, like it has to be the world's first empty sorority house ever. Anyways, her and Rage Page are this movie's gay couple. Hey! Gay couples in movies make stories better. So Rage Page, still with an angry face by the way, tells Elise she's taking her to a fancy Thai place on Friday night, right before a big concert, which is also on Friday night, just after they all came back from celebrating her birthday in a mansion in the Catskills. So much struggle and adversity for these poor modern students. And then Elise hears banging upstairs in the crawl space. And it turns out there is a high priestess up there doing a screamy face thing, and she kills Elise by hitting her a bunch of times with a ladder. Elise never defends herself from the ladder, but she does try to get to her phone a bunch of times. She also does one of my favorite bad horror movie things when a character is struck with a devastating blow and the actor makes it look like the extreme violence makes them sleepy. Now, for anybody missing the genius of this movie, remember the tarot cards at the start of the movie? Elise got the High Priestess, and she was told she'd be climbing the ladder of success. Elise's card reading just happened to her in real life. And that means Spencer Cohen told us what's going to happen to every character later on. This is exactly what ruined 2013's Evil Dead for me. Fede Alvarez kept showing drawings in the Necronomicon of what was going to happen to the group of friends. Now, normally a director would put two and two together in about half a second and say, hey, writer, fix this. But director Fede Alvarez also wrote Evil Dead 2013. Just like director Spencer Cohen wrote Tarot. It's all coming together now, isn't it? And it's about to get worse. Again. The gang congregates in Rage Page's $6.4 million weekend place. Monday to Friday, it's actually an IKEA location thousands of people stroll through, daydreaming about the possibilities of their own home looking like this one someday, completely unaware of the fact they never will, even if you purchase the exact furniture they have on display. My mom's friend sticks around to play best friends with Rage Page, and when Rage Page wakes up from a terrible nightmare, my mom's friend thinks it's best to spend the next 40 minutes talking about herself and how she got into tarot cards. It's something to do with her mom getting sick, but who really cares? And the whole time she's talking, Rage Page's face is all like, I just woke up from a nightmare because my chick just died. Why are you telling me your frickin' stupid life story? Meanwhile, Zoolander takes Madeline home and then he walks himself home. Now, for your reference, Zoolander got the Hermit card and Elise warned him about ending up on the wrong side of the tracks. We'll ignore the fact hermits live in solitude for religious reasons and probably wouldn't be roaming the bowels of a train station in the middle of the night for now. Folks, I don't want to be responsible for blowing your minds, but once he gets inside that train station, stuff happens. First, he finds this newspaper with his face on it and the headline, "You Die Today." Now, how's that for face posing? Look at him go, folks. Then this thing does the same screamy face thing the High Priestess Ladder Lady did last time, and I'm pretty sure it's the same mask, only it's scrunched up all different. And poor Zoolander ends up pushed on the tracks. Are you feeling it yet? Are you sharing my brain pain, knowing this is just going to keep happening over and over until this movie's done? How's about this? In conjunction with my sardonic commentary, I will do my best to get us through these final deaths as quickly as possible. The remaining students with limitless money who are also friends speak to the police. Now, normally, each of them would probably be suspects given the outlandish circumstances, but they can't be suspects because Spider-Man's personal assistant says,
Don't you think that's just a little strange?
I mean, the lines themselves, they're pretty heavy, but it's the emotion in his face that really gets me. Where's the Bette Midler song? After they elude the fuzz, they say a load of stupid things and then they answer questions in unison a few times.
We're not.
And look, Rage Page's face, which could easily be pretty if she smiled, reaches a whole new level of lemon juice. And then suddenly, my mom's friend has a eureka moment when she figures out what we figured out 20 minutes ago. And I need to summarize this properly. This means Spencer, the writer, told us everything that's going to happen 10 minutes into the movie. And while we're politely tolerating the fact Spencer, the director, never corrected this issue, he has one of the characters also realize it and then explain it back to us again. And this summary of a summary that none of us asked for ends with none of the friends believing her, even though it is the most sensible explanation. And this leads us into the internet research portion of the movie, and this one is pretty special. Under my mom's friend's instructions, because she knows how to use an internet browser, her words, not mine, they Google the term horoscope. Then they all jump in the car and drive 3 hours to visit the first name at the top of the list. Do the Google search now yourselves, you'll get about 13 million results. They went straight to the first one on the list. To pass time on the 3-hour drive, they toss horoscope-related jokes back and forth. The fear of dying a horrible, painful, supernatural death motivated them to jump into the car, but now they're being witty. And when they arrive at their destination, superstar writer-director Spencer Cohen demonstrates a lack of knowledge in pace and tone and horror. The football team-sized group knocks the woman's door down in the middle of the night, but when the woman passes by her own window to answer the door, it terrifies Madeline. Maybe her grandmother forgot to prepare her for this particular situation. Olwen Foire answers the door, and she was so bad at playing Sally Hardesty in the Texas Chainsaw 2022 remake, I had to show her how it's done.
Well, I'm the one that got away, and I'm here to make sure that you don't get away again.
Next on the list of unsurprising ingredients in this shite horror movie recipe, Miss Foire is playing the role of Elise from the Insidious movies. As usual, first she wants nothing to do with them, and then my mom's friend says something that changes Miss Foire's mind, and then she explains a bunch of shit to the audience because this movie needs more explaining. During Miss Foire's 40 years of stories, we find out the first name they chose out of 13 million in a Google search happens to be the same person that's been searching for those specific tarot cards that they found in the basement of a mansion in the Catskills for her whole life. What are the odds? Her stories go back through time, starting in Mexico City in 1951 and ending in Hungary in the 1700s. You can try and take all the info in, but it's literally a whole other story within her first story within the movie story. And it's wicked boring. But at the end of it, we're brought back to that witch at the very start of the movie. The following is a public service announcement. If you've ever wondered in real-world, tangible terms what it is I try to do for you with this channel, Miss Foire's little story lasts 6 whole minutes. Hit the like button. Anyways, the kids are cursed and they have to destroy the cards, and on the drive back, the car stops on the longest bridge I have ever seen. Now, back at the start of the story, my mom's friend gave Madeline the hangman card and told her not to run from her problems. And then Spider-Man's personal assistant decides it's time for him to do his own thing, even though he just watched Madeline a few seconds ago. And the Fool card chases him around his apartment building and gets him in the elevator. Can you guess what his reading was? And meanwhile, Rage Cage, the miserable gazillionaire, rents the entire mansion in the Catskills again so they can go back and get the cards. Just a reminder, folks, that's a tiny place in the Catskills. When they get the cards, they toss them in the fireplace, but they won't burn. So Miss Foire shows up and explains everything for another 3 minutes. Then the expert who ranked #1 in a Google search for horoscopes, who has also been searching for these exact cards her whole life to destroy them, sits down and the witch kills her immediately. She's worse at tarot cards than she was at being Sally Hardesty. And with her dead, the devil shows up if this thing sneaking around the corner is anything to go on. Then Rage Page gets dragged into a different room and her card was the magician, so she gets killed by a magician who's wearing the same mask everybody else was. And that means Rage Cage's character died having never smiled a single smile in this movie. It just shows you, money can't buy happiness. It can buy you a competent screenwriter. With only my mom's friend and Grant left, thank fuck, and with only a few seconds remaining in the movie, my mom's friend decides you can change your fate. Now, even though at the start of the movie she said you can't ever change your fate, Grant gets pulled off through a window, not like that, and my mom's friend gets chased around the mansion by a new thing. And then Grant comes in the window, not like that, and my mom's friend does a tarot reading on the witch who cursed them, and the witch shows up. So my mom's friend explains how tarot cards work to an actual tarot card witch. She talks about her mom again, and even the witch can't take it, so she screams and disappears. And then Spider-Man's personal assistant comes and picks them up in his car, even though we thought he got done in the elevator. And if you want to know how Spider-Man's assistant survived, like how they chose to bring this movie to an end, Spider-Man's personal assistant's roommate opened the elevator door, so the thing went away and didn't kill him. There you have it, folks. If you're still here, thank you very much for sticking around. My next review is going to be a 3-act breakdown and explanation of 2024's stop motion. Until next time, folks.
It's me, Johnny, from that video you just watched, although I'm sure you know who I am, right? You should subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost anything, it's easy to do, and it makes creative people like myself who thrive on compliments feel all warm and fuzzy. And if you like that last video, click on this next video because it's just as amazing. Click on it.